So, and when it comes to your dad's beliefs about spirituality, you feel like what are a lot of the anti thoughts?
He was like very vocal about it as a little kid. He thinks that like war and like really fucked up shit happens because of organized religion, and I think he blames organized religion for a lot of like global things and conflicts, period. But he's also lobbed spirituality into that, and he's not one for like the woo-woo stuff. He just like instantly rolls his eyes over it.
But yet at the same time, he's been more the person now.
Yeah, and at the same time, he was the natural path. You know, he was the one who's like, my holy place in my church is out in the mountains. Like, he took it very, very seriously. He's a big historian, and so he would study like Native American like theology and looking at the Church of the Native Americans and the spirituality with that. And so he is, in many ways, he would never call himself spiritual, and he would never say what he was doing was spiritual, but in many ways he is, like, he's more artistic and he's more expressive, and he smokes a ton of pot, which I think has a lot to do with that. But then he also has more of an appreciation for kind of the subtlety, but I don't think he would ever call it spirituality or like organized religion. Definitely it's not religion.
Right.
Definitely not religion, but it...
And he's the one that bikes, like you have that in common with him, and you do align that experience with a part of your own spirituality. Do you think that kind of, without him maybe acknowledging that, you think that might be...
Yeah, I think his idea of spirituality was through like more like a hobby, and like it had to be something real. So like for him to read like the Bible, or for him to read some sort of spiritual text, or for him to go to church was just like, it was too, like, that didn't make sense. But like him going and hiking for 4 hours made a lot more. That was holy, and that was like very fucking cool and very special.
Okay.
And same thing with like riding the bike. For him, it's like this kind of transcendental thing, which I obviously have inherited both of those. And so in many ways, yeah, I think the kind of spirituality that was modeled by him is stuff that's like really super important and imperative for me now.
So he's the one that's sort of, in terms of this family dynamic around this issue, you can relate to him maybe the most about it?
Yeah, and like he's the one, so like when I talk to him about doing ayahuasca or like dropping acid or doing mushrooms or going to ecstatic dance, like, or dancing and doing movement, or like having this altar, and kind of now how he's seeing how my spiritual practice is developing, and I invite him, and he'll come into that world with me. Whereas like my mom, absolutely no way. My sister would be like, absolutely no way. My brother would probably get into it, but he's just this like funny pig who's like super sassy, and so he would like make a joke out of it.
So he might maybe get a little bit closer to at least participating because it's something that's important to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think he's just
still
more in it for the experience, and like spiritual texts and stuff that I read, and like he's able to hold conversations with me about stuff that I'm super, super into. My mom tries to like intellectualize everything, and so it's just like, lady, like, just fucking listen. Like, I don't need a response, and I don't need you to try to like intellectualize this. Let's just have a conversation about it. But yeah, my brother would definitely, we were able to share a bit more of that, and he is able to kind of open up a little bit about it, but I don't think, same thing, he's like not a spiritual person. I think you could be, but right now it's like his spirituality taps out at like a nice tapestry and some incense, you know.
So to him, like, it's about the experience of it, and a bit of part of you kind of feels like he would also, or his attitude is to, like, be a little bit more lighthearted and, like, oh, this is not really that serious. And not, so you can't maybe relate to him about your deeper experiences, because would he sort of laugh it off a little bit, like...
I think there's definitely, he holds a bit of judgment around it, but I think that he would, I know that he really trusts me, and we are really close in many ways, and so if he sees something that is increasingly important and is becoming more of a thing for me, I think he'll be, he gets really curious about it, and so I can tell when he's curious, and so I'll open up an invitation. But for instance, when I was at these weddings a few months ago and was having like a really intense kind of like spiritual experience where I felt like really connected to my Aunt Karen, who's since passed on. And he was the one who was like sitting down and talking with me about it, and was like, so how does it feel? Where is this happening? Like, he really was interested and able to like hold space for me in a very non-judgmental way. That, like, my dad, I think that would have been like too much for him. I think he would have been like, okay, like, whatever, bird. My mom was just a mess, and like that, it was too much for her, like way too fucking much. And my sister would just laugh and scoff it off. Whereas my brother, he was, you know, he's like, oh, cool, I believe you. He totally would get down with that. It's funny how he's like coming closer and closer.
I was watching you do that as like she's moving him in.
Yeah.
I think you just kind of changed maybe a little bit of your own. Like, you actually had him closer at the beginning, and then you moved him out, and then there was like this dance of like bringing him back in here. I mean, this looks like a great guy to have around, honestly.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want Pig Doctor to sit down and talk about life and death? Sassy Pig Doctor. Love that you picked that for your brother. It's like one of...
Yeah, it's like really, he is... Yeah. He's a sassy Pig Doctor.
So good. Also have to say, like, that you picked this for your mother. Before you even said that's going to be my mom, I was like, I wonder if she's going to choose the woman with the children crawling all over her.
Yeah, which is funny. So this is like the storyteller and like from the Kachina. So from like the Hopi and Native American, well, it's yours, you probably know about this, but like Hologram, she has all of the children, she sings songs, and this is how the history is like transcribed down. My mom works at a school for advanced research, and she, in all intents and purposes, is a mom. Like, she runs and hosts seminars and like plays mom for scholars. She also is like really very much, one thing I am talking about in therapy, and maybe that's a reason looking at kind of around this issue, is my mom had to kind of step into a maternal role really young because my uncle is severely handicapped, and she never really had the opportunity or the ability to be a kid. She kind of like had to step into this maternal role super young. And you know, my dad was like always off fluttering around. He wasn't really present when we were really, really little. He was, but not in like a dad way, and just like a funny dude who's in the house way. And my mom really took on a lot of that responsibility, and she, I think, just never had time for herself, and I think spirituality is something that I'm discovering is very much about a relationship with you and your higher self and like this other state. And I think she's always been so grounded in like taking care of other people that she never had that idea, and it makes her I think spirituality for her seems very selfish and feels very like self-wallowy. And like even talking to her about therapy, because she is going through kind of a rough one, and I was like, have you ever thought about going to therapy? And she was like, no, because I just hate when people, you know, like people get addicted to therapy. It was like her, I was like, Mom, what the fuck, dude? And I think that's the same thing, like she would say that about religion and spirituality. It's like people get addicted to it. It's like too much about you. It's like too much, yeah. You're only exploring yourself. Yeah, and I think after doing that ethno, whatever the thing that we did for Shoshana was called. That one project where I did like a mobile. But looking at
ethnicity, family.
Yeah, like ethno-culture sketch thing. Okay. But like my mom, both of her parents are of Scandinavian descent, and so this idea of like you do not pity yourself, you do not ask for help, you just kind of do it.
Very self-reliant.
Very self-reliant. And like you work collaboratively, but you're independent and autonomous. Okay. So like collaborative autonomy kind of a deal. And like my mom really doesn't ask for help in any way, shape, or form, and she micromanages because she can't handle people doing anything for themselves. And so like which is ironic because she's incapable of doing anything for herself.
So it's constant taking care of everyone else, constant micromanaging,
and like not doing anything,
and then an inability to take
like,
care of self.
I don't even know.
Because that would be selfish.
That would be really selfish, and that would just be ridiculous. Like, why would you do that? Why would you go to therapy? Or why would you, like, take yourself out to a movie or something? But she's the first one to recommend doing that, you know? She's like, you should do this, and I'm like, well, maybe you should do this. But yeah, so, like, even her, when I explained to her about, like, what I'm going through and shit that I'm working on and my altar, she's just like, okay, like, kind of, yeah, she just has nothing to say about it. Or she tries to, like, intellectualize it. Yeah. I don't really think she understands what the fuck is going on. Okay.
So she's trying to ground your spiritual beliefs in her own sort of understanding, or is she just trying to rationalize?
I think she's trying to rationalize, but the way she's trying to rationalize is by giving me advice about it. Because I don't know if she... Yeah. It's like... She thinks of it as... just, like, unnecessary. And silly. Whereas my dad's like, to a degree, it's, like, super silly, but I also get it. Like, I get when you, like, you have such a connection with something for no real reason. Whereas my mom doesn't really have a connection with really, at least to my knowledge, she doesn't really have a connection with anything besides, like, her family. And, like, reading books.
And her work.
Her work, yeah. So, yeah, so, like, to have something that's just her own is just, like, super foreign to her.
She doesn't even, I mean, the figure of her, she doesn't even have her own space, literally. She's
holding everybody.
And really quick, if I can comment on this.
Okay.
She's, in a way, she's the midpoint in your family, which brings me to your sister, because I'm really curious about...
Why, she's all the way off in Siberia?
Well, look how there's, like, dad and brother, right? Like, trifecta supporting you, but from different angles. Mom, like, supporting you in her own way, but kind of over here, and also being the midpoint